Good evening. Welcome to the Willmar City Council meeting for Monday, August 20th, 2007. Roll call.
Mayor Heitke.
Here.
Councilmember Reese.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Swenson.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Docken.
Here.
Fagerly. DeBleek.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Kevin. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting. I see we have some citizens here in the audience. We have a representative of the Boy Scouts of America, and we have a U.S. Marine. Nice to see everybody here. Let's move right into the agenda. First of all, to the council, is there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda? We have a number of announcements at the end of the meeting. We'll bring those up at that time. We'll go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the council minutes from August 6th, the utilities minutes of August 13th, the planning commission minutes of August 8th, the building inspection report for the month of July, the housing and redevelopment authority minutes of July 10th, the library minutes of July 19th, the zoning appeals board minutes of both August 6th and August 13th, and also a mayoral appointment for the council to consider to the Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board of Commissions for Luz Jimenez. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. We are now down to number 7 on the agenda, which is the first public hearing and only public hearing tonight. That public hearing is now open. This has to do with an ordinance amending on-sale liquor conditions. And Kevin, are you handling that? Please, go ahead.
Mayor Heitke, members of the council, you have before you an ordinance from the recommendation of the Public Works and Safety Committee. This ordinance began with some prohibitions for boxing, wrestling, and ultimate fighting contests. And pursuant to working on that, it was learned that the state legislature gave the authority to the State Boxing Commission for those fights. And continued discussion in the Public Works and Safety Committee gave a recommendation simply to not legislate those activities in the city of Willmar, but to prohibit the sale of alcohol when those activities are scheduled to take place. So you simply have a short ordinance prohibiting on-sale liquor licensees from selling that liquor during boxing, wrestling, ultimate fight contests, tough person contest, mixed martial arts contests, and any other contest regulated by the Minnesota State Boxing Commission. So it includes in this section the on-sale liquor licenses, the on-sale wine licenses, and the on-sale non-intoxicating liquor licenses, which is a 3.2% malt liquor. So it is the recommendation of the Public Works Safety Committee to adopt the ordinance as presented.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on this or ask any questions about this proposed ordinance? Would you please introduce yourself and your address?
Peter Middleton, 617 Southwest A Street, Willmar. My question is the need for this law. There's lots of other sportings, of course, football and stuff. Not exactly in our town because our football stadium is on school grounds, so there's no alcohol consumption. But fans can go to events like that and consume alcohol, even if it's just 3.2. Some people like to go to a sporting contest and just partake in a beverage and enjoy it. And I don't see a reason for that not to be allowed in this case. Some people say it will make the fans violent. Football is considered a violent sport. Lots of other sports are considered violent, and people get rowdy, but I don't know. I don't see that there's a need in this situation to ban consumption of alcohol. I'm not saying that people need to drink at it, but sometimes it'd be nice to have a beverage and enjoy yourself. So,
Thanks, Peter. Anyone else wish to make any comments or ask any questions about this ordinance? If there are no other comments from the audience, the public hearing is now closed. The matter comes up to the City Council table. Councilmember Reese, do you want to make any comments about this? It came from your committee.
No, I think Kevin covered it pretty well. You know, we had originally discussed concerns about these events taking place at all, and we had staff look into it, and they came back probably a month ago and explained to us that the legislature had passed regulations regulating this type of performances and events, and is actually regulated by the State Boxing Commission, I believe it is. So our concern was the alcohol being served as a committee at the event, and what possible situations that could put individuals that are attending these types of activities in, and what type of crowd control that would, difficulties that may present. So that's why the recommendation is here, and the hearing has been set, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does staff or anybody know if the county's done anything similar to this, or are thinking of it, or any information on that?
Chief, do you have any comment on that?
I'm not aware of the county doing anything with it. I don't think they've been confronted with it.
Okay. I remember one other item that we discussed along with this, what Councilmember Reese had said. That was not just during the boxing or kickboxing, whatever it be, but it seems to be that after the event is over, sometimes alcohol can make people a little more rowdy.
Councilmember Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everybody recalls, we had a hearing, and there were 4 individuals, Mr. Anderson, Sergeant Nagan, and I forget the other 2, and they met with the chief. And so I'd ask the chief, in your discussion with them, was alcohol ever discussed, and did they have an opinion on alcohol being served at these events?
I know Mr. Nagan and Mr. Riddler stated that they would be opposed to allowing liquor to be served at any of these types of events. I don't recall if Mr. Anderson had an opinion on it or not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else on the council? Council, what would you like to do?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we adopt the ordinance, give it a number, and publish it.
Second.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded to adopt this ordinance, give it a number, and publish it. Further comment about that? Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes, the ordinance is adopted, and it will be published. For Peter and for other citizens who are interested in this, this is a lot more than what the council was willing to do a few months ago. And I think because of the awareness of the state legislation, this has moved forward, probably not as far as you wished, but it has moved forward. Okay. Thank you for your comments, Peter. Next is the Willmar City Council Open Forum. That's number 8 on the agenda. And this is the opportunity for any citizen to say something to the council if they wish to. I know we have one gentleman here, Mr. Cordy. Is it Lee Cordy? Yep. Lee, would you introduce yourself and your position and your address?
My name is Lee Cordy. I live at 8150 Long Lake Road, Spicer. I'm just a hair over the line. I am Trailblazers Camping Chair for North Star Council and the Boy Scouts of America here in Willmar. We run a day camp every year here in town, and what I have in front of you is a letter. Mr. DeBleek has it. He can pass out copies to. And as a fan of watching these meetings, I notice that most people who come to this podium have something negative to say or argue about. And as we discuss it with youth and government and everything else with the boys, they always ask, why doesn't anybody come up here with a positive? And I said, because it's always easier just to mail the letter. Having said that to them, I am now here to read a positive letter of something that happened to us, and hopefully I challenge the mayor to pass this on to the people in charge. This is to the city of Willmar. In the past, the Boy Scouts of America Trailblazer District has used Robbins Island as a day campsite for Cub Scouts, ages 6 to 10, to experience scouting and take part in activities. This year was no exception. Our date was July 14th. From 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. we were hosting day camp. We had approximately 53 kids, 22 adults registered for the camp. The evening before is our usual setup time where the district staff will come and set up all the events. This year our events were archery, BB gun shooting, frisbee golf, beanbag toss. We had members of the VFW who were hosting flag etiquette and a proper meeting of the flag and how to handle it. And as always, we have one event where the kids get to write letters, draw pictures, and they are sent to the troops serving overseas in the Middle East. On July 13th at 7 p.m., myself and our district executive, Randy Stile, Councilmember Mr. DeBleek, and Larry Linder showed up at Robbins Island Shelter. Everything went according to plan. We got everything set up, but we were a little shocked when we went to unlock the shelter to put our supplies in the store overnight, and our key did not fit the shelter. Now it is Sunshine Weekend. It is 7:30 in the evening. We know the city is closed and thought we were pretty much done for the weekend. Bruce DeBleek gave me 2 names to call. I dialed Leanne Freeman, and the phone was answered by her mother, who stated that she was not there, but that she would take a message. I explained our situation, and any help she could get us would be greatly appreciated. I then called Steve Brizendine, who is the rec department manager. He was not home, but I did leave a message on his voicemail. Figuring at this point we were pretty much done. It's about 7:45 p.m. I receive a call back from Leanne, apologizing that we had the wrong key, which to me was amazing because basically it was our fault that we had the wrong key. But she stated that she would be en route immediately with the key, which I thought was amazing on Sunshine Weekend, knowing everybody is busy. Within 30 minutes, she was down at Robbins Island, again apologizing for taking 30 minutes because she had to go and lock a door at the senior center first. I was so impressed with this lady and her dedication to the city of Willmar that she came right away, got us a key, got us unlocked, gave us a key to use, and when she left, we proceeded to finish setting up. At 7:30 the next morning, staff showed up on the 14th to finalize setup before registration began at 8 a.m. At approximately 7:45 a.m., my phone rang, and it was Steve, Department Rec Manager, earnestly trying to find out if we had a key, if he needed to come into town, he was on his way. I explained that we already got a key, but I thanked him for his efforts. This letter is basically to the City Council, to the Mayor, telling you that you need to pass this information on to your department heads and to Leanne on a job extremely well done. With Sunshine going on and our city growing to twice the size, it made us feel good to know that there are people in office in this town who care so deeply about what they do and about the events running that they took it upon themselves to make everything happen. I can't express our sincere appreciation to both Leanne and Steve for the dedication that they showed, and it was truly, truly appreciated. Our Cub Day ended with 75 participants, totaling with kids, adults, and staff of 11. Everything went just wonderful. We had a lot of Sunshiners who were playing the new regular Frisbee golf course out there. We had our own shorter version going because of the age of our kids, but it was just a wonderful experience. I wanted to publicly take this opportunity to read this letter into the minutes and to hand a copy to you, Mr. Mayor, and tell you to please go down and shake Leanne and Steve's hand, pat them on the back for a job extremely well done. And this is signed by myself, Camping Chair, Trailblazer District, Northern Star Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Thank you.
Lee, thank you for your effort to put the letter together and your time to come down and thank the staff of the city. It's appreciated very much. We have copies of this letter that will pass out to the city council members, and I'm sure make sure that Mick and Kevin get those too. Again, thanks, Lee. Steve, well done. And we'll see that Leanne gets acknowledged for that, too. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address the City Council tonight? John, come on up, please. You have to introduce yourself again.
My name is John Sullivan, 508 Southeast 13th Street, Willmar. Getting me kind of a habit, I guess, huh? But, Mayor, members of the council, I've been asked to speak to the City Council tonight on behalf of citizens of Willmar concerning the recent approval of a conditional use permit for Earth Tech Energy, Inc. After consulting with the land use attorney, we have a concern about whether the process for the conditional use permit was followed appropriately and whether the Board of Appeals is the proper body to approve a conditional use permit with conditions of their own, or whether the board should have limited itself to reviewing the basis for the Planning Commission's finding, and if the board found that there was no basis for the finding, returning the matter to the Planning Commission for further determination on the conditional use permit and conditions. There are other legal issues being looked into for propriety and legality with the whole process from the annexation of the property in question to the conclusion of August 13, 2007. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do you want to leave a copy of that with the city clerk or anything?
Yes?
The city clerk's over there. Thank you for your comments, John. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council tonight? If not, we will then move on in the agenda. The next item is number 9, which is the Finance Committee report for August 13th. Councilmember Anderson.
Mr. Mayor, I was unable to attend, so we're going to ask Councilmember Dockin to
All right,
go through the minutes,
Councilmember
please.
Dockin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the minutes of August 13th Finance Committee report. We handled 4 items. All are for information. Number 1 item is liquor licenses. Pursuant to a July 2007 liquor compliance check conducted by the Willmar Police Department staff, presented to the committee the list of 5 retail liquor establishments that violated Municipal Code Section 3-2, selling or giving intoxicating liquor to persons to whom sale is prohibited. 3 establishments incurred their first violation, for which representatives were present to explain measures being taken to eliminate future violations. The first of the 3 was El Tapio Mexican restaurant, represented by manager Juan Valencia. The second, Green Mill, represented by general manager Mike Loranu and regional vice president of Torgerson Properties, Pete Romelkamp. And 3, the Candy Entertainment Center, represented by Keith Pattison. 2 establishments incurred their second violation, both of which requested a hearing before the Finance Committee to present their appeal. Ashley Hexil of the Willmar Police Department gave a detailed account of her participation in the compliance check. The American Legion was represented by manager Darwin Osmus and bartender David Zinner, who explained measures being taken to eliminate future violations, and after considerable discussion withdrew their appeal, thereby accepting the 5-day suspension of the sale of liquor and a $750 fine. The second, the Golden Palace, was represented by Betty Hang, who explained measures being taken to eliminate future violations, and after discussion withdrew their appeal, thereby accepting the 5-day suspension of the sale of liquor and the $750 fine. This matter was for information only. Item 2, Fireman's Relief Report. The committee reviewed the annual reports required to be filed by the Willmar Fire Relief Association. The reports indicated the association assets would presently be able to fund retirement liabilities calculated on $4,000 per year of service, which was an increase of $400 over last year. Currently, the city's commitment level is $2,400 per year. No action was being requested by the association, so this matter was received for information only. Item 3, lawful gambling contributions. The committee reviewed the ordinance requiring gambling organizations to submit a monthly report itemizing their lawful purpose expenditures of gambling proceeds. Again, this matter was for information only. The final item, reports. The committee reviewed the following reports: May Rice Hospital, June Municipal Utilities Commission, June and second quarter Rice Trust, second quarter investment interest, June investment portfolio, first half community foundation, July local option sales tax, July economic development commission, July convention and visitors bureau, and July RAC 8. This matter was for information only. Unless there are further questions, I would move to file these minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. I have a question. Was there any discussion about the performance of some of these investment funds at that committee meeting?
I don't recall that there were.
If I could ask either a city administrator or a city finance director, is there satisfaction with the performance of the Rice Trust Fund and the rate of earnings for that fund? Has there been any discussion about that?
Mr. Mayor, who are you asking is satisfied?
Well, I guess the hospital board or the hospital foundation board.
We haven't heard any comments one way or the other from the hospital board regarding the trust. The trust representatives in the past have come to the City Finance Committee, I think, on a quarterly basis. They no longer do that. I think it's been reduced to probably an annual visit or semi-annual, I don't recall, annual. And so all that trust information and the investments are gone over at that Finance Committee meeting.
Okay. It just struck me that the earnings ratio was somewhat limited. Steve, do you have any comments? You review all these reports,
A couple
right?
of years ago, the Finance Committee reissued the Rice trustees to go to the hospital board, I believe. I believe they go there on a quarterly basis
Okay.
and have those discussions.
Okay. I think the rate, I'm trying to find it right here. I read it earlier and now I can't get my finger on it. I'll look at it. Maybe I'll call Lori and talk it over with him.
Part of their investment strategy, Mr. Mayor, is determined by how much they want to realize in earnings that they can use to provide assistance to families in need.
Right.
As opposed to a different investment strategy which would grow the fund at a higher rate of return.
Right.
And the City Council has made that conscious decision to split that earnings in the fashion that results in great part to what you've perceived to be a low rate of return.
Mm-hmm. I know each year they spend about $80,000 to $90,000, somewhere in that range, out of the foundation to pay for care that people can't afford to pay for, and they qualify for some help from the foundation. And I know the investment ratio is 30-70 or something, 30 equity, 70 fixed rate. It's a more conservative ratio. But in spite of that, it seemed like the earnings of that fund were somewhat low.
There are earning criteria in the investment policy of the Rice Trust, Mr. Mayor, and if those aren't met, I'm sure the hospital board will have those discussions with the Rice trustees.
Mm-hmm. The reason I bring that up is we look at these earnings ratio all the time through the League of Minnesota City. I sit on the board of directors for the League Insurance Trust, And the earnings of the League Insurance Trust are considerably higher than the earnings of the Hospital Foundation Trust. And, you know, it's two different operations, it's two different things, but there's quite a substantial difference in earnings here. And that's why I'm just curious if this had generated any discussion. I'll visit with Lori Massa and get a little bit clearer picture of that and what the formula is that they're using. Anybody else? Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For your information, as the liaison to the hospital board, this has been discussed a couple of different times at length, and there's at least one member of the board who feels similar to you, what you're thinking right now. So
okay.
I'm sure that they are. I think that the new chief financial officer is looking into this also.
Okay, good. Any other comments on filing these minutes? If not, those in favor of filing the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next are the Public Works, Public Safety Committee report for August 14th. And Doug, are you passing it on?
Mr. Mayor, even though it says I was there on the minutes, I was not. So that should be struck from the minutes. And Councilmember Christensen chaired the meeting, so I guess I would prefer that he gave the minutes.
Good. Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the Willmar Design Center. Had to do with the transportation grant. Ms. Bev Doherty, who represented the Willmar Design Center, was present, and she discussed the conceptual design of the transportation grant submittal. In June of this year, the City Council approved the concept with the final design subject to approval of this committee. The application requires the submittal be a trail connection and can be used to fund habitat and landscaping. The deadline for this grant is September 14th, and the funding would be in the year 2012. We reviewed the proposal and discussed the crossing area between the downtown and trailhead connection with regard to safety. Following some discussion, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following. To support the scope of the design for the trail application, except for item number 4, which is the crossing design, and authorize the Design Center to submit the application on behalf of the city. And I will introduce that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to support the scope of the design for the trail application with the exception of item number 4, and authorize the Design Center to submit that application on behalf of the city. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
And Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
Ms. Doherty was also there to have to do with the 4th Street closure request. She presented a request to close 4th Street Southwest from Litchfield to Becker Avenue on September 18th from 3 to 7 p.m. for an open house street party in front of the Ingen building to celebrate the designation of the former Tribune building to the National Historic Register. The building will be open to the public for tours, and plans are being finalized to grill on the street from 5 to 7 p.m. A 20-foot access road will be kept open on the west side to accommodate any emergency vehicles. After some discussion, again, a motion was made, seconded, and passed to approve the street closure as requested, and I will introduce that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the street closure on September 18th from 3 to 7 p.m. on 4th Street Southwest from Litchfield to Becker Avenue. Further comment about that? Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Item number 2 had to do with a community garden. Our recreation supervisor, Leanne Freeman, was present, and she requested approval of an area just behind the senior center for use as a community garden. The current community garden is located on 7th Street and Willmar Avenue Southeast, which is on private property. Jerry Gesh, the landowner, acknowledged to the committee that he does have other sites available should the land sell. The success of the present community garden was discussed, and it was felt that an additional, more permanent site would be warranted. Ms. Freeman presented the layout approved by the Senior Council on August 1st and explained their desire to have fundraising activities to construct a shed, some benches, and a few picnic tables. The ground of the site would need to be prepped this fall in order to be workable in the spring. A motion was made, seconded to pass for the following: to approve the use of the land behind the senior center for a community garden. I'll introduce that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the land behind the senior center for a community garden. Further comment? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spoke with staff and with Mr. Gesh a little bit. My concern was that, and I needed to get some clarification, that this was going to be for an additional site. My concern had been that we were going to not use the current site anymore. And that's not the case, and I'm glad to see that there's going to be an additional site. However, I understand that there's some concern among some folks that this site might not become available. And I guess I would like to offer a simple amendment to this recommendation, directing staff to research and identify other potential community garden sites within the city and report back to the council by April 2008.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the motion. Is there a second for that amendment?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second to the amendment to the motion. Councilmember Anderson?
Why? I mean, what's the concern? I think I'm missing something here. Why do we think that the senior center site is not going to be available?
No, I probably misspoke, Mr. Mayor. The senior site is going to be available. However, the concern is that the current site on Willmar Avenue, which is part of the Gesh property, which is for sale, might not be available in the future. Now, at the same time, and I'll expand on this for just a moment, perhaps we have some city-owned property that is underutilized in different areas of the community that we could use as community garden / community gathering types of spaces. And I'm simply asking that we ask staff to take a look at those possibilities and bring us a potential list of areas that might be also usable for such sites in the future.
Councilmember Anderson, finish up.
But Mr. Gesh said that he's got other sites that would be available. I guess I'm still a little bit at a loss. You're thinking that it should be on city property as opposed to private property? Is that kind of what you're...
It's something that I just simply think we should inventory and take a look at.
Okay.
Councilmember Reese?
Well, that's what Councilmember Anderson said was what I was going to say, that in the minutes it says that Mr. Gesh has other sites available, and I guess I don't see it as a... I mean, we as the council never established the current community garden site. It was just... it's not a policy issue, and I think if there needs to be another site and Mr. Gesh has sites available, I think it should just be accommodated.
Councilmember DeBleek?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I know Mr. Gesh took it upon himself to establish the community gardens. I don't know if it was 1 or 2 years ago, but I think that was very commendable of him to do that. And I think now that we are also going to provide a space for community gardens at the Senior Citizen Center, I think we are proper and right to actually inventory our land use and the land that the city has that could be available for this type of use, or sometime in the future if the community gardens are take off and we need additional space, we'll know where there's space available at that time. So I don't think we're asking, I don't think Councilman Gardner is asking any great time effort on staff, just to kind of look over what our assets are and what's out there that could function for space as a community garden.
Anyone else? All right, we have an amendment to the original motion. We'll vote on the amendment first. And the amendment in concept is to have the city staff inventory other possible sites for a community garden. Are you ready to vote on that? That's a simple motion, Kevin, right?
Both of them are, sir.
Okay. You're voting on the amendment first. Those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
I understand it to be that the noes carry here, so that the amendment is denied. Now we're back to the original motion, which is to approve the use of the land behind the senior center for a community garden. Any further comment about that? Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Okay, back to Mr. Christensen.
Item number 3 had to do with Celebrate Art, Celebrate Coffee, the annual celebration. The Celebrate Art, Celebrate Coffee Festival Chair, Kay Thompson, was at the meeting, and she submitted their request for the city's support for their annual celebration in downtown on September 15th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Her request included the temporary closure of 5th Street from Trott Avenue to Litchfield Avenue and Becker Avenue from 4th Street to 6th Streets, starting Friday at 5 p.m., which would allow placement of tents. In addition, the parking lot next to and behind the Masonic Temple building would be closed the entire day on Saturday. The layout of the festival will remain essentially the same as last year's, with a 20-foot fire lane access available at all times. Once again, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following: to approve the temporary street and parking lot closure for the Fall Festival as presented, and I will introduce that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the temporary street and parking lot closure for Celebrate Art, Celebrate Coffee Festival on September 15th. Further comment? Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4 had to do with project number 0706, completion date extension. Request was received from Design Electric Contractors to change the completion date for project number 0706, the Waterview Business Park street lighting. Staff concurred with their request, understanding that not all the curb and gutter on the Waterview Business Park streets is complete. Staff recommended changing the completion date to October 26, 2007. After some discussion, again, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following: to approve the request for Design Electrical Contractors, Inc., and change the completion date for project 0706 to October 26, 2007, and I will introduce that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request of Design Electrical Contractors Incorporated to change their date of completion for project 0706 to October 26, 2007. Further comment? Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Our next item had to do with the wastewater treatment plant relocation project, the July monthly report. This was for information only from Donahue. Mr. Craig Holmes of Donahue and Associates presented the July monthly report for the wastewater treatment plant relocation project and reviewed the status of the design phase. The 75% complete milestone will be achieved this month on the 24th of August. The courts have ordered that the city and its agents can enter private lands for conducting investigation for final design and preparing appraisals. The wet weather flows and lift station evaluations continue. Design and permitting is completed for the Phase 2 of the Southern Interceptor, and easement acquisition is in progress to support a construction start in September. Willmar has received news that the pending $15 million WRDA grant is moving forward. In construction, Phase 1 of the Southern Interceptor is complete, and activities are underway for interim modifications at the existing plant. And again, that was for information only. Item number 6 had to do with the airport open house. This is for information only also. We and staff overviewed the planned open house for the new airport. The fly-in, drive-in pancake breakfast will be held Sunday, September 2nd, 2007, from 7:30 a.m. until 1 p.m. Admission to the open house is free, which includes display aircraft, some ribbon cutting, and Young Eagle flights. Pancake breakfast is being sponsored by the Boy Scouts and is available for a fee. Item number 7 had to do with Project 0710, Willmar Avenue Southwest Extension Plans and Specs. This project consists of a 2,200-foot link that was designed along with County Road 47 and connects to Highway 40. Staff is proposing the 52-foot roadway be graded, the underground utilities installed, and curb and gutter in place this construction season. The completion date, consisting of final bituminous, would be June of next year, 2008. Staff requested approval of the plans and specs, and a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following: to approve plans and specifications and authorize advertisement for bids to be opened on September 17th, 2007. And I will introduce that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve plans and specifications and authorize advertisement of bids for project 0710, which is Willmar Avenue Extension. Further comment about this? Roll call.
Councilmember Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Let's see, item number
8.
8, another project, 0715, wastewater treatment plant Phase 2 Southern Interceptor. This project is the second phase of the Southern Interceptor and is located north of 19th Avenue Southeast and enters into the current wastewater treatment plant property just inside the fence. The plans and specs were prepared by Donahue and Associates, and a September 17 bid letting is proposed. The letting is subject to receiving final easements from property owners. After some discussion, a motion was made, seconded, and passed to approve the plans and specs and authorize advertisement for bids to be opened September 17th, 2007, and I will introduce that resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve plans and specifications for project 0715, the wastewater treatment plant Phase 2, and advertise for bids. This will be opened on September 17th. Further comment or question? Councilmember Reese.
Just one question. Is this project going all the way to 19th through the parking lot, or is it just crossing the ditch and stopping there?
This one would start at just north of 19th Avenue and go to the old plant.
Oh, it will go all the way, okay.
Just to the east side of the ditch next to the fence of the old plant.
And what kind of accommodations are being made for the winter then in the parking lot?
We would anticipate putting at least one lip of pavement on there in the disturbed area.
Just a temporary
Correct.
cap? Okay.
Anything else? Roll call.
Councilmember Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Our next item had to do with the Civic Center / Blue Line Center connection change orders. Our Civic Center manager was there, Kevin Madsen, and he presented an update on the construction status of the connection of the Blue Line Center to the Civic Center. The final completion date for the project is October 1 of this year. And construction is progressing on schedule. During construction, a number of items surfaced that needed to be addressed by change orders. Mr. Madsen explained each of these items in detail to the committee and explained they will be outlined by change order. The total of change orders 1, 2, and 3 will be presented to the council at this time, and I believe you have in front of you the 3 change orders. They all start with AIA at the top. Change order number 1 is not in our minutes, and we need to submit that first. Approve it, I guess, and it is actually a deduct of $109 if you follow down there the summary. And I will introduce change order number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve change order number 1. This is work out at the arena, and it amounts to a deduct of $109. Comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
And change orders number 2 and 3, if you look at the summaries of them, you'll see the total on the first one is $98.03, and there's a brief summary of each. Number 3, total $14,058.
Ron, let's take them separately, okay? Let's do number 2 first.
Okay. Are there any questions on the change orders, changes A through G? We discussed them at the committee, and Mr. Madsen explained each of them thoroughly, and I think they're all in order here.
This has to do with the concession area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any comments from the committee or council members? All right, then we need a resolution.
I would introduce the resolution for change order number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a resolution that includes a change order on the construction at the arena. The amount involved here is $9,803. Further comment or question? Roll call.
Councilmember DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes.
Change order number 3, again, totaled $14,058, with the major ones would be item number C, which is providing additional switching the lights as per Kevin. He wanted to be able to switch them on and off from more than one location. And item D, adding catch basins at the front sidewalk. Those are necessary because the grade of the land there was not very steep, and they needed to add more catch basins so the water would run off quicker. And item number I, which is soil correction, which is directed by a soils engineer. After they started excavating, they ran into some very poor soil, so they take it out and fill in with some aggregate. The total of that is $14,058, and I will introduce change order number 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for change order number 3. The total amount is $14,058. Further comment or question? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask Mr. Odens, this is about $25,000 and changes. About how many changes have we had to make? Are these the only 3 that we have made on the project, or do you have an idea of the amount of change orders in value since we started this?
Councilman Dockin, these 3 are the only change orders that we've had on this project as of last week.
And the total project was, again?
$985,000 was the budget, I believe.
So that's a very limited amount of change order, would you not say?
And we had budgeted a certain amount of contingencies, and we're still below it, so there's no net budget change, just moving from contingency to the contract line.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilmember Reese.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
It's my understanding, Mel, we also need to revise the budget because of these change orders. So I will make a resolution to revise the budget accordingly to reflect change orders 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjust or revise the budget to reflect these change orders 1, 2, and 3. Comment? Ron, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe all it's reflecting is taking it out of contingency and putting it in spent. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Swenson.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Dockin.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes.
If there are no questions, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. I just have a quick question about the airport open house. It talks about a ribbon cutting. Are we cutting a ribbon for the terminal building, or what? Does anybody know what the ribbon cutting's for?
I think that might have been an overstatement, Mr. Mayor. We're just proposing an open house.
Open house?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Reese?
I must point out that I made an error at the beginning of these minutes being read, and there was some reference material in our packet which showed that I was at a meeting, but that was reference material. It was not the minutes, so the minutes were prepared correctly. And the other thing that I'm a little disappointed that we're having the airport open house on Memorial Day weekend, because I am going to be out of town. I really wanted to be there.
Well, it's Labor Day weekend.
Isn't that what I said?
Memorial.
No, Labor Day weekend.
You gone that day, too?
So it's just unfortunate, because I really would like to be there after such a long and important project is in our city. I'm disappointed I can't be there.
Well, I'll ask Councilmember DeBleek to save you some pancakes.
There you go.
You'll be all set then. All right. Did we file the minutes, Kevin? Councilmember Dockin?
Thank you,
Not
Mr.
yet?
Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to go back to the airport also to make reference to the fact that when folks are out there, they'll be able to look at the F-14. I know that Mr. Schmidt made reference today on open mic with JP, and I've spoken with Pat Curry, who has done a tremendous job on this project. As you know, we set aside, I think, what, $25,000, and to date, and I think Mr. Schmidt probably has more current information than I do, but we have not spent any of that $25,000. The cost has been reduced considerably, and I think that it's all been covered now by private funds. Is that not correct,
That's
Mr.
correct,
Schmidt?
up to this point.
So that's really very, very well done by Pat Curry and his committee.
All right. We do have a motion on the table to file the minutes, don't we? Ron, you said that, and
So we did.
somebody seconded
Yeah,
it?
somebody did.
Those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is the Community Development Report of August 15th. Councilmember DeBleek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the Design Center. Mary Lou Arney, representing the Willmar Design Center, appeared before the committee to propose a system of logo signs for facilities identification in the central business district. The purpose of the signs would be to identify government facilities and public restrooms. Approximately 15 signs would be needed, and with the thought being that the signs could be produced and erected by city and or county. Ms. Arney informed the committee that the signs would provide visual notice for traffic coming to the CB Central Business District from all directions. In most cases, existing sign standards could be used. The committee questioned and discussed the level of the need for such signs, and it was suggested that the real issue was as simple as identifying public buildings that contain public restrooms. After considerable discussion, there was a motion made to approve the concept and have staff investigate the cost and review the locations for such signs. And I'll introduce that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the concept of Design Center sign proposals for public restrooms. Further comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second item on the agenda was the railroad quiet zones. Staff, you hear that. Staff presented a draft review of the railroad crossing noise issues in quiet zones. Options for all Willmar crossings as presented by the Railroad Control Limited. The committee accepted the information in advance of the final report, which will be used to guide the city's actions on quiet zones in developing the budget for process. So that item was for information only. Item 3, conditional use permit process. The committee reviewed and discussed a flow chart showing how the city's conditional use process works under current ordinances, and staff explained how the process worked for the recent pellet plant request. There was comments offered by Councilmember Christensen in his opinion that the City Council had more experience and was in a better position than the Planning Commission to make final decisions on conditional use permits. Councilmember Dockin disagreed, stating that the current process has worked well and committed and talented Planning Commission members serve the city. And there was no action taken on any changes for the conditional use permit process review and approval process. Item 4 was project updates. Staff provided updates on a number of industrial and retail projects. The committee was also informed of an upcoming staff change with the Department of Planning and Developmental Services. Item number 5, there was a request that staff share the landscaping plans for the Baptist Church parking lot with the neighbors. Staff reported that the contractors and Stacy Nursery will involve the neighbors in the planning review and engage them in the planting process. If there are no questions, Mr. Mayor, I'll motion to file the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to file these minutes. Any comments or questions? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Next is the consideration of a preliminary plat called the Service Addition. Bruce, would you explain that, please?
Mayor Heike, members of the council. Service Addition is a 3-lot residential plat located on Foot Lake off of Gorton Avenue Northwest. The purpose of this plat was to legally subdivide one large lakeshore lot into 3 smaller parcels. 2 of the parcels are being combined with existing residential lots, and the 3rd parcel would be made available for sale. This plat will make it possible for 1 additional residence to be constructed on that property. The Planning Commission reviewed and approved the preliminary plat with a few minor conditions, and it's the recommendation of staff that the council approve the preliminary plat.
Thank you, Bruce. Council?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat called the Service Addition. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a consideration of a special assessment hearing for unpaid weed and grass mowing. Mick, do you want to comment on that? Or Bruce? I don't know who's
Mr. Mayor, and members of the, which one are you on?
What about number 13?
The Emerald.
You skipped one, Mr.
You
Mayor. You
skipped on
skipped
the
number
Emerald
13.
Ponds.
Thank you. All right, we'll step back and go to number 13. Consideration of a final plat, the Emerald Pond Second Edition. Bruce.
Mayor Heike, members of the council. Emerald Pond Second Edition is a replat of 5 lots into 4 larger lots for the purpose of twin home development. The developer of that project is Dan Kuzman. Most of the issues in that plat were addressed in the original plat review process, except there were 2 conditions placed on the final plat by the Planning Commission. Those conditions related to a party wall agreement for some auxiliary structures and concrete medians to protect a utility structure that's just off the private right-of-way. It's a recommendation of staff that the council approve the final plat with those 2 conditions.
Thank you, Bruce. Council?
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the consideration of a final plat called the Emerald Pond Second Edition. Further comment? Is that a resolution, Kevin?
No, sir.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're to the consideration of special assessment hearing for unpaid weed and grass mowing. Kevin.
Mayor Heike, members of the council, you have before you on the executive summary a list of property owners, parcel numbers, and addresses where mowing was conducted between August 1st, 2006 through July 31st, 2007, and that those have not been paid at this date. Pursuant to our ordinances, we have the ability to hold a public hearing and take testimony for their objections and then certify for collection on next year's taxes if that is the council's desire. Staff is recommending that we set the hearing on September 4th, pursuant to you changing the council, of course, to the September 4th. And then we'll notify everybody of that hearing date.
All right.
I'll make the presumptuous motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to set a public hearing for September 4th regarding the assessments for weed and grass mowing. Further questions or comments? Those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now is the need to reschedule the first city council meeting in September because the scheduled day falls on Labor Day. And the recommendation is to move it to Tuesday, September 4th. Council.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move the first council meeting in September to September 4th, which is a Tuesday night. Comment? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are now down to the announcements part. Some community announcements first. I'll call on Councilmember Dockin, who has something for the DAV. Jim?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. On September 15th, that's a Saturday, from 10 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the National Service Officers from the Disabled American Veterans will be available to handle any questions that any veteran within about 50 miles of Willmar has. Letters were mailed. In fact, I got mine today. Basically, what this letter states from our National Adjutant, Arthur Wilson, it says, get straight answers about your rights and benefits. There's good reason why the Disabled American Veterans DAV West Central Chapter 34 is inviting you and your family to attend a DAV Veterans Informational Seminar. So many disabled veterans feel confused about benefits and services they have earned. There's so much to know and so many changes from one year to the next. Here are the details, and of course I've given those to you. September 15th from 10 in the morning, that's a Saturday, until about 4 in the afternoon at the National Guard Armory here in Willmar. A highly trained National Service Officer from DAV's Minnesota office will conduct the seminar. This veterans benefit expert offers you the best counseling and claims filing assistance you and your family can get. And the best is available to you free of charge. You do not need to be a DAV member to take advantage of this DAV service. Simply bring your VA claim number, Social Security number, or DD Form 214, and they will speak with you. And, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to make this announcement.
It helps a lot of our citizens. Thank you, Jim. Other announcements, just a repeat of two things. One, the fly-in, drive-in pancake breakfast at an airport open house at the new airport. Again, it's Sunday, September 2nd, from 7:30 in the morning until 1 p.m. out at the new airport. Please come, bring your family and friends, take a look at the brand new airport, take a look at the F-14 jet fighter plane, and walk around it, walk underneath it if you like. It's a beautiful static display out there highlighting the whole airport. And pancake breakfast is available with the help of the local Boy Scouts and their leaders. And Councilmember DeBleek is one of their leaders. Thank you, Bruce. There's an announcement for a community-oriented policing and problem-solving meeting for Ward 1. It's Tuesday, August 21st. So that'd be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Willmar Senior Citizens Center. It's a general meeting. Again, Ward 1, Tuesday night, August 21st at 7 p.m. at the Senior Citizens Center. Again, a re-announcement or a repeat of the announcement of Celebrate Art, Celebrate Coffee. It's happening on Saturday, September 15th in downtown Willmar. It's got a very good tradition and history, a lot of fun. There is a great show that takes place Friday night at the WEX Center and also on Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock at the WEX Center. It's How to Talk Minnesotan. It's a comedy kind of presentation, and tickets are available. Ads are in the paper, so make time to enjoy Celebrate Art and Celebrate Coffee. It's a great afternoon festival for friends and family, arts and crafts and music and food. It's just a good downtown outdoor celebration. I have a special announcement that I'm asking our citizens to remember and to participate in. There's a group of citizens that have been organized, or that have organized themselves here in Willmar to recognize and welcome home the soldiers of Candioi County who have recently returned from Iraq. We have been informed that there are 35 soldiers throughout Candioi County that have recently come back in the last month or so from Iraq. In order to recognize them and to thank them, a downtown parade is being planned for Sunday, September 23rd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sunday, September 23rd at 3 o'clock, downtown Willmar. It shouldn't last much more than about a half hour. But I'm asking all of our citizens to consider coming downtown to show your support for these returning military veterans. They literally put their lives on the line, and we need to show our thanks and appreciation. Please come downtown. The parade will be about a half hour long. The Willmar High School marching band will be in the parade. The soldiers will be in separate cars in the parade. And then there's a private picnic for the soldiers and the Patriot Guard that's also being invited to attend. That's just for the soldiers and their family and the Patriot Guard. That's going to be held over at Rice Park after the parade. But the citizens and I'm asking all of our veterans in the community to please come out and support these young soldiers who have come back to us, and let's thank them in the proper way and show our appreciation and respect for them. Again, September 23rd, Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock in downtown Willmar. Thank you. All right, and now we are down to the council committee meeting dates. Finance, Dennis?
Finance will meet Monday, the 27th at 4:45.
August 27th, 4:45, Finance. Public Works, Public Safety.
Tuesday, the 28th, 4:45.
August 28th, Tuesday, 4:45, Public Works, Public Safety. Community Development.
Community Development is not scheduled, Mr. Mayor.
Labor.
No meeting, Mr. Mayor. However, we will be meeting on the 12th of September.
Next meeting of Labor is September 12th, 4:45 at City Hall. Any other announcements or notices to come before the City Council tonight? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So move.
Second.
We have a motion and it's been seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned.